Obviously, one of those origin visions that ties back, and we were showing it earlier, is this idea of a standard, the idea of interoperability, the idea that the digital wallets that we might use every day, whether it's a leading crypto wallet or something like a Square Cash or a Venmo or a Revolut or the equivalent products in other parts of the world, and even like tech forward-leaning banks, neobanks, all these companies being able to connect to each other over the internet and being able to have a way to do near real-time, irreversible dollar settled transactions, and it feels like we're getting really a lot closer to that, and I think that then touches on this bigger theme, which is ties back to, I think, the mission behind Center, which is this empowering people, global financial inclusion, creating this more open and inclusive financial system. If you can create standards and anyone can implement them, and products and services all around the world, it's sort of like the open access to information and communications that we have. And so I know that's a passion for you, Nemil, and for both of the companies as well. And I think a big part of getting there is really, I think, two big things. One is like much simpler user experiences. So the way that someone gets started with sending and receiving something like a stablecoin being much simpler, and then better blockchain infrastructure, basically, which is like, how do we support internet scale applications and internet scale usage of things like USDC. And I think with those, the world can look a lot more interesting. And so I guess part of that is trying to solve these problems together. And so I think one of the things that we're going to talk about here is USDC version 2, which is pretty exciting. I believe it went live on mainnet at 11 this morning, so it's live, and which is awesome. But there's, as noted, there's the first upgrade in 2 years or over 2 years, and it's pretty cool. But on that concept of how do we make progress against the goal of making this more easy for people to adopt around the world, one of the big innovations, and one that I know Coinbase contributed a lot to, is this gasless sends model. I thought it'd be great to talk a little bit about that part of USDC 2.0, and I'll maybe turn it over to you, Nemil, to frame that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you mentioned, Jeremy, we're in some ways in our pre-iPhone moment in crypto. There's still just a tremendous amount of usability that we're working on to make this easy and simple to let other people use. And I often get the question, is when will there be a world when my grandparents understand crypto? And I think my goal is that there's so much complexity here. The goal is just to abstract it away, where none of us think too deeply when we start a car or use an iPhone, what's going on underneath the surface. It just lets us do what we want to do. And so I think
we're not thinking about using secure sockets layer when we buy something on the internet, right? So early days of the web, you're like, is it SSL? And it threw a big dialogue in your face, and it was like, are you accepting this certificate? And it's like this stuff, simplicity requires things to become invisible.
Exactly. And so the goal here is just making more and more of that invisible. And I think in a lot of ways, the way you move USDC today, it's I liken it to moving, if you wanted to pay someone $20, you'd have to go buy €1 and also spend that to be able to send the $20. Right. That is the use case for anyone who doesn't, work in crypto.
It's actually worse than that. It's like you have to go buy, energy credits.
Exactly. So I think that a core part of changing that user experience is making it easy so that you can just use dollars. The same way you might spend dollars, you don't need any other currencies, you don't need any credits. Same way as that you can be able to take your USDC and send it out. And so what we worked very closely with the Circle team on was just basically this idea of gasless sends. And for a non-technical definition of it, it's very simple, is that you don't need that other currency. And so what that means is that, let's say you have a wallet, either that wallet can on your behalf decide to pay. So you don't have to ask the user to pay. And this is a really simple example. Often when consumers send money, they don't pay a fee. You might, if you send Venmo $1 somewhere, you're not often paying a fee for that. It also means that third parties can charge can charge this fee in USDC. So for example, if a third party wanted to charge the fee, they didn't require the user to go get another token. They could directly just pay in USDC. And so the whole goal here is just cutting down friction and the complexity of this process. And I think this is just one step of it. I think what I like is not just the usability angle, but also the fact that this could be a business model for other companies, which then drives more and more, parties that might provide these services.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's I was talking to our company about this again earlier today in all hands, and sort of before and after, and what does this look like? It's I think it's really core to virality here, which is that there's hundreds of digital wallets that implement these standards that actually support USDC today. If they upgrade to this capability, right, then it is more like a Venmo experience. Like, I want to send you some digital dollars. Oh, how do I get those? Download any of these hundreds of apps from any country in the world, and show me your QR code, and I'll send you some USDC. And now you can send it to someone else. And if there's a fee, it's paid out of USDC, or maybe there's no fee at all. And I don't have to worry about, like, I need to go buy some Ethereum. What's Ethereum? What's gas? What is all this? So it radically simplifies it. And I think we're going to see, lots of digital wallets that want to implement this very quickly, I hope, because I think it will help with mainstream use for sure, in a big way. So Joao, maybe you could talk a little bit about, from a ecosystem perspective, if I'm a developer or I build wallets or custodian or exchange or others, how can they take advantage of this today? Like, what do people need to do?
Yes, there's a couple of different ways, and we intend on also producing more documentation and more just concrete examples of how developers can take advantage of this. But we are happy, I think Nemil and some other folks on the Coinbase team, and we have some folks on the Circle team always present on the Discord channel for USDC, and there's always a lot of developers asking questions about how to implement this or that or the other on top of USDC. So happy to answer questions there. But essentially, if you go to the USDC GitHub repo, you can have a look at the smart contract infrastructure, and you will see that essentially USDC 2.0, as we said, includes this new capability. It's a new set of operations on the smart contract that typically a wallet provider would benefit a lot from. So you would have to wire up your infrastructure into those new operations to implement, as Nemil said, depending on how you want the UX to be. Do you want to subsidize the cost of gas? Do you want to charge a user and take part of the actual USDC amount that is about to be sent? Or do you want to charge that on the receiving side, because it's a slightly different business model? So, the UX is going to vary, but essentially you're going to communicate with the smart contract in a slightly different way with these new operations that we have. And as I said, we're going to work on producing some documentation and examples of how this can be used. But we're happy to answer questions on the community Discord channel.